Sorry that I'm in a different outfit, but this is breaking. Mark Dreyfus, our new Attorney General, has just dropped all charges on Bernard Collaery. If you want to know why that's important, got a bunch of videos about it here, but pretty much that is the new government reversing these whistleblower prosecuting decisions of the previous Liberal government. That's something to get excited about right off the bat. But first, something even more exciting. Gold Coast, Townsville, I'm doing my live show live, obviously, at your town. Very soon as well. Featuring guest star appearance of Michael Jackson. Woo! Sorry, but after 9 years of the sudden transition to I think I'm going to start a weekly segment called This is how well your money was spent this week and why I wish the stereotype of Labor being a high-taxing government was actually true because they spend your money better than you do. The show. I'm telling you, it's incredible to see what happens when you have people in charge that actually want to see the country improve. If Australia was a patient, Labor is the plastic surgeon that did Kim Kardashian's face, and the Liberals are the ones that did Jocelyn Wildenstein's. In fact, so much good news has happened that I'm serious when I say this. If you click off this video, you're less of a patriot than Adam Baird. This truly is a love it or leave it moment, c***. Poll time. Like the video if you love it. We're going to start with the best news of all, which is that Friendly Geordie's Patreon exists. Whoa, did you know that? Did your eyes do this when you first found out? Whoa! Yeah, I know that's gross. I wouldn't have had to include it either if enough of you bums didn't think, no, ever since Napster was invented, I don't have to pay for shit. That's the deal. No, you can pirate King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, but you can't pirate me because it affects me, okay? Especially when the more we expand, the more we can counter the inevitable point where some billionaire in Australia decides, oh, they're not letting me pulp orphans into food for other orphans. That's it. We're getting the Tories back in it. We need to keep reminding you to remind others that no, you're being duped into hating this government because this government just went to a conference in Portugal, announced the Australian government had changed, and this was the response.
New government, the whole world's changed.
And then everybody clapped. They did though! Didn't you just see the footage? It's only a slight exaggeration to say that the new Labor government got a standing ovation from the entire planet simultaneously, and yet in Australia, yeah, alright, slim majority, slim, tight leash. It wasn't even the speech they were cheering at, it was just Tanya Plibersek saying, hello, I'm not Susan Ley. She then announced, and how's this for some symbolism that you thought you were going to get out of the Greens, but instead you get, Australia, the concept. So good. Pauline Hanson's cartoon of him is less a caricature of himself than he is. On the other hand, you want symbolism the entire country can get around. Tanya, environmental leader of the party that's really bad for the environment because their name doesn't remind you of leaves. Goal, become global leader in marine conservation. Brilliant. Because there are kids in foster homes that are less neglected than the oceans. Bit of a different agenda to Susan's only oceanic dot point, which was pretending the Great Barrier Reef was fine. Not just talk either. Tanya backed it up with 5 massive blue carbon projects, which as soon as you look into environmental management any deeper than the vague sense of optimism you get looking at wind turbines, and you realise, yeah, wind turbines are cool, but nowhere near as cool as pinwheels. The real challenge is to expand ecosystems instead of Susan shrinking them like a penis looking at the eye-popping footage. Salt marshes, seagrass, excellent carbon sink. Mangroves, this is the big one. You know how saltwater aquariums need a filter? No, because you don't spend your life thinking about aquariums? Well, they do! I hope we never meet. Because if we do, we'll have nothing to talk about. But mangroves are the Great Barrier Reef's aquarium filter. It sucks out all the nutrients that have been pouring in from agricultural land that is the food of coral's mortal enemy, the crown of thorns. Best possible thing you can do to save the reef. Restore mangrove lands. Wouldn't happen without a Labor government. All you get out of the Liberals is Susan Ley pretending to be a mermaid, so when the UN delegates come in, yoo-hoo! Ugh. Let's just see its phone and go. Yes, didn't even have to use my psychic siren powers. You know what else wouldn't happen without a Labor government? You getting $40 a week extra. $2,000 a year more. There you go, Australia. Go buy yourself a nice 4-seater for your home cinema at Super A-Mart to go with the plasma Kevin shouted you last time. Actually, no, because that'll cause inflation. But you know what doesn't cause inflation? Giving to our Patreon. Seriously, have you ever done anything easier than going, for $2,000? Don't say OnlyFans. Doing a ping pong show requires far more muscular control than that. I know this guy who works in a bar who was talking about if Labor gets in the economy stuff. Once Labor got in, the manager said, so I suppose you'll be forfeiting your extra $40 a week in a pay rise. What? Yeah, you didn't vote Labor, so you obviously don't want the pay rise. No, you have to give it to me. It's the law. You see what we have to deal with? I swear Labor would be sitting on a 90-seat majority if they just made their how to vote cards referendum. Do you want $40 or not? Well, if I don't like the $40, I can always vote them out next time. And yet, $40, $1 extra an hour. You have the ghost of Dutton haunting the corridors of power.
Oh, this $1 an hour will cause businesses to go under.
Yeah, but you've seen Kitchen Nightmares. There's a lot of shitly run businesses out there. I'll tell you what'll cause a lot of well-run businesses to shut down, though. No customers. It's Economics 101. If customers can't afford goods, they can't buy them. They can only pay tax? A basic rule of economics is that wages have to be rising at roughly the same rate as inflation. Always. And seeing as the Liberals saw your wages plummet below the inflation line, well before we saw this global inflation they were bitching about, and even then their only idea was, we're going to cut petrol prices by a little bit, and then when we're re-elected, we're going to put petrol prices back up again. Inspired Australia? Money isn't used for anything but buying petrol. Woeful economic management. If Josh Frydenberg was on Britain's Got Talent 2 seconds in, it's important that those on minimum wage get a pay rise because they don't have money to save. They have to spend every penny they earn. Just know that if you're on minimum wage, your weekly earnings went up from around $770 to $810 a week under Labor. Now, onto free speech. We're always pointing it out. The Liberals pretend they care about free speech, but the record shows they're the only threat to it. I forgot about this because it was so early on, but remember the Liberals gagged every non-government organisation in the country. They said,
Want any money from now on? It's shut up money. Don't f***ing talk about the government, capiche?
Labor just lifted that gag, and why? Because they want these organisations commenting on government policy. They want to see the blind spots in their policies because they want the policies to be good. Not even done there. You can already see them reshaping public services. How's this of a stark difference between the two? You know how Dutton created basically the Ministry of Love in 1984. That's what it should have been called. I mean, Ministry of Home Affairs. That's more of a euphemism. Merging all the spooks, all the cybersecurity agencies into one giant department that, much like Erin Affair Mall in the Central Coast, was, for a while, the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere! As you can imagine, as someone who has a camera in front of their face for their entire lives, the idea of someone spying on me at all times, I just thought, oh, sick! Second Twitch stream! What freaked me out was that, you know how in Orwell's dystopic future, all scientific advancement ceased, except for the fields of spying on people, thought control, military weapons. Dutton did that. Huge amounts of spending in other areas, gouge. Spending in environmental science, gouge, meaning that our best and brightest scientists, f***ed. I love this example purely because of how indisputable and concrete it is, and like all freaky stories, it happened to a friend of mine. But under Labor, this science man was figuring out how to track coral spawning to help it survive in the era of climate change. But then he was so starved of funding under the Libs that the Aussie Stasi tapped him on the shoulder and said, how about you just start applying those algorithms you were using to track coral spawning to thoughts online? Isn't that horrifying to everyone else except me, as I imagine that would just wind its way into YouTube's algorithm and then it would make it easier to find me. But anyway, now that Labor's back in, Albo immediately starts directing Home Affairs. Hey fellas, Mr. Albanese. Ah, you boys seem like an approachable lot. You know what band I think you'd like? The Smiths. But also, you know what I think would be just as cool as going to a Smiths concert? Instead of using all this funding to track nobodies that bitched about Peter Dutton once, here's a nice badge. Now you're in charge of responding to national disasters. Isn't that a better use of your money? Not only that, remove the AFP from the Department of Home Affairs and created his own super department, and this really does show the difference in priorities between a Liberal and Labor government. His super department is a climate change super department. That's where our best and brightest will be going from now on. Out of using algorithms to track your thoughts online and back into tracking coral spawning patterns. And again, it's early f***ing days. There you go, show this video to your mum, all the people that say, "It's not fair." So just remember, you do have a task over the next 3 years, and that is to tell your mum that doesn't like me swearing what happened this week, so she doesn't learn it all from Peter Overton. And your first task within that is to tell her about Mark Ferguson, as he's much more handsome and you should be listening to him anyway. Get a merch shirt at friendlyjordies.com, and you too could look as cool as the neckbeards that are the most frequent purchasers of them. Bye for now.
Please share and comment below. Comment.